time that people can change their name if they don't want that on the recording. Fantastic. So thank you everyone for joining me this morning for this live webinar where we're going to talk about how can we become the parent you want to be in 2021. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mette Teilman. I am Danish, therefore the accent, and I am a fully qualified parent and family impact coach. And I support families to create better connection and communication with each of their family member, including themselves. But also, if you're in a separated family with your ex-partner, I work a lot with separated families to create better connection and communication with the ex-partner as well. Because once we have established this, then everything afterwards becomes so much easier to create rules and routines and responsibilities. But also, as I keep saying, nobody goes through family life stress and battle-free. But if our starting point is a healthy foundation of a strong connection and communication, you're more likely to bounce back after a battle or a conflict in the home without too many disconnection or a constant feeling of guilt. But I just want to say today is not about bombarding you with lots of fancy and difficult tools and strategies and fix what needs to be fixed. Today is a time out for you to think about what kind of parent are you right now? Good and maybe not so good. What are you proud of and maybe not so proud of? And what do you want to keep in your parenting style right now? And what do we maybe need to get rid of or modify and change a little bit? And then together, we're going to look at a few tools about what kind of parents do you want to be in order to raise the children that you hope for. And as I said, today, we're going to aim to stop at 11:45. So before we get started, I would like to just invite you all into this space. So you can give this webinar your full, thank you, Lindy, 10:45, thank you, not 11:45. I would like to invite you all into this space so you can fully enjoy and focus on this webinar. So make yourself comfortable and you can either close your eyes or look away from the screen. And I just want you to take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath and slowly out. Maybe just roll your neck a little bit before you take a next deep breath, deep, deep breath. And hold it and slowly let it out. Make sure your stomach goes out. The air has to go somewhere. Balloon breathing. Stomach out. Hold it. Hold it. Slowly out. And just one more breath. Deep breath in, stomach out. And just breathe out again. And I'll bring you back in here. Maybe roll your neck and shoulders a little bit to wake up. Thank you so much for doing this exercise with me. And most of us feel so much more relaxed at present after a good breathing. But it's often that we don't take those few seconds to just stop and breathe and check in with ourselves before we do and say anything. But when we do so, it's one of the most simple but powerful tools we have as a parent to use. But we often don't do it because life is lived 100 miles an hour. And there's so much to get done and too little time in the day. And that often means that we are always on the go, either physically doing all this activity, get the kids up, get them breakfast, get them dressed, get them to school. Now it's homeschooling, then go take them to activities, dinner, cooking, cleaning, shopping. So if we're not physically on the go, we are mentally on the go, thinking about all these activities that needs to be done. What's next on the agenda? Or maybe we worry about the past of what went wrong and how and what we could have done differently, or anticipate the future of what is to come. So the here and now merely becomes a stepping stone to what is next in our life. And all this physically or mentally on the go often means that we become mindless. We become disconnected from the here and now. And our kids most likely will sense that. and they might start playing up or fighting because they have quickly learned that as soon as they do so, then we're willing to give them our full focused attention. So basically what we're teaching them here is to get a lot of negative attention, because then we're willing to be 100% focused. But also our kids might start feeling less important because they're not worth our full focus and full attention. But more important, we become less in control of ourselves, our action and our behavior and our words. And we're in danger of letting our emotions run away with what we do or say. They hijack the outcome. We're more likely to let one word or one action take the other, where we shame and blame and criticizing our kids, which we regret later on. And I'm sure you've all been there, where you've said or done things to your children you thought afterwards, that was not my finest hour. I wish I could take that back again. All because we have let our emotions, our deep emotion, hijack the outcome, because we haven't allowed ourselves to stop and breathe and check in with ourselves before we do and say anything. So it's really important as parents that we have a tool to help us to become a more focused and present parent that will help us to become the parent we want to be. So for that, I would like to offer you a really powerful but simple tool called the 1, 2, 3 awareness breath. And a few of you who've worked with me before, you know it already, but I'm just going to share a PowerPoint with you. There you go. I'm just going to put myself up there. So from now on, before you do or say anything, before you attend to your child's request or behavior or words or attitude, I would like you to just stop and breathe, just like we did before. Before you do or say anything, allow yourself to pause and stop and take a deep breath. This will allow you to think, to check in with your emotions. Think, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling disappointed, I'm feeling stressed, and that's okay. That's my feelings. They won't just go away, but I don't want them to hijack the outcome. I don't want it to control the way I parent my kids or what I do and what I say next. But the most important thing is, for now, accept this is what I'm feeling right now, but I'm going to control them. I'm in control of myself. And then think, challenge your negative self-thoughts. Often when we are in these deep, raw emotions, we start having negative thoughts such as, why me? What have I done wrong? Well, here we go again. I can't believe he's doing this again. Is there something wrong with her? Something wrong with our family? I'm not sure I'm going to make this. But the more negative thinking we have, the more we allow our emotion to hijack what we're going to do next. And we're going to get more and more agitated. And that's when we say and do things that we regret. We become reactive instead of responsive. We become aggressive instead of assertive. So try this few seconds where you have paused to challenge these negative thinking and think, you know what, most of the time, he's a really good boy and we have some good times together. And as a family, we're managing really well. And you know what? I can be in control of myself, so I can be in charge of the situation. And most of the time, I do a pretty good job. At least I do my best. I'm not a bad parent. I'm just trying my best. We can do this. We have lots of lovely times together. And the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that don't take their reaction or words or behavior personal. They are just doing what they need to do. Our kids are small scientists. They're always on the lookout to get their way or to get away with what they don't want to do. That's natural. That's their job. As much as it is our job to stay firm and calm and in control of our own emotions. So think, it's natural what they're doing. This is what kids are doing, but I need to do my job too. So once you have paused, taking a deep breath, checked in with your emotions, challenge your negative thinking, then you are actually, you can check in, then you can actually make a decision on what you're gonna do and say next. You can start becoming in control of your actions. And then you can think about, what are you gonna do or not do? What are you gonna say or not do? you can make a decision on, is this a yes from me or is this a no from me to my child's request? Or maybe your decision is, you know what, I don't know right now. I need a little bit of a thinker. I need to speak to my partner, or I need to speak to my friends about this one. So I'm going to park that one. Or maybe at this point you make a decision that actually my emotions are so raw right now. I don't even want to respond to their request or behavior right now. I'm going to take a time out and come back to it. So inform that. You can also decide to choose your battles. You don't have to respond to every little behavior or word or request in your child. You can decide to ignore the behavior, to say, you know what, this battle is not one I'm going to take. It's not going to be worth it. I'm going to ignore the behavior until it calmed down. The most important thing about if you decide to go for ignoring is to reconnect once the behavior start diminishing or stopping. So we don't ignore the child, we ignore the behavior. But the main point here is that the 1, 2, 3 awareness breath would help you to make these decisions, to help you be in control of yourself, but only if you stop and breathe before you do and say anything. The benefit or the aim of checking in with yourself before you do or say anything as a parent is that you become more measured. You start talking and acting with purpose. Instead of being impulsive, we actually start becoming more measured and calm. We become assertive and calm instead of aggressive. But also we become so much more focused in what we're about to do and say, instead of distracting by everything that's going on and our own raw emotions. And I think the main thing here is that's really nice is boost your confidence, knowing afterwards that you have done and said the right thing. Because the measurement of success isn't based on how your kids behave, it's based on how you're behaving, how we are behaving, how we are responding to a child's behavior. You know, as I said, they're scientists, it's natural what they're doing. We need to do our job. So we can look in the mirror in the evening and say, you know what, my kids might still have played up today. They might still have had a few fights and they still have had a bit of an attitude, but I'm actually proud of the way I responded, the way I stayed in control of my own emotions. So stopping, breathing, and thinking before you do anything, gives you time to check in with yourself and your raw emotions and prepare yourself for what lies ahead and what actions or behavior you're going to have. The main thing is that if you take these few seconds to check in with yourself, you're more likely to be consistent in your parenting tool, which makes you safe company to be with, because your kids don't have to second guess, was that a yes or a no from mommy or daddy, or how we're going to behave. We just become safe company to be with. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now, and I would love to hear from you that if you were to stop and breathe and check in with yourself before you didn't say anything, how would that change the way you parent? How would that make you a better parent, or maybe even the parent that you want to be? So for some of you, you can, I'm just going to stop screen sharing. You can just take your recorder off and you can share with me, how do you think that this will help you to become the parent that you want to be? Or you can put in the chat box if you want to. So if you were to check in with yourself before you said and did anything, how will that make you a better parent or change the way you parent right now? So somebody's saying here, I wouldn't snap a response. So absolutely, Aruna. What happens here is that it gives us time to just think before something comes out of our mouth. And we might say, actually, I don't want to just criticize my child or shame and blame. I want to just say and do the right thing. So Michelle is saying, wouldn't regret what I might have said and done. Absolutely, we've all been there, haven't we? Where we said things and afterwards we thought, oh my God, that was not my finest hour. I cannot believe I just said that. So somebody also said here, and if anybody want to say with their voice, you can just unmute yourself. It will make me more patient with less yelling. You're absolutely right, is that pausing just give you time to calm down so we become more patient. And also, you're so right, it can help you make that decision. I'm not going to start yelling here. It's not worth it. It's not the parent I want to be. So absolutely. So from now on, if all you take away from this webinar is, I would like you to just stop and breathe before you do and say anything. And a lot of parents say to me, we don't have time for that. When our kids are coming with us with requests, or they're having an attitude or behavior, we need to respond straight away. We don't. We can allow ourselves a few seconds before we do so, because it just makes us more patient. It makes us more measured and more assertive. So I'm going to come to a second tool for you today. So Laura is saying, get down to your child's level and speak calmly and put yourself in their shoes. Thank you, Laura. You're so right that if we just take a breather before we do anything, it just makes us think about that. Maybe before we say anything, we just need to get down to their level and think about how they're feeling, which nicely takes us into the next tool. And I'm just going to screen share something with you. So the first step to become, somebody else is saying here, would you kindly talk about what if you pause, but the child has a strong-willed challenge? So I think I'm just trying to read it again because it stopped them. So the child just keep going. So your child most likely will keep going because that's their nature. They want to get their way. They're scientists. They're exploring. So the main thing here is that we're talking about a few seconds. We're not talking about minutes or half an hour. We're just talking about your child comes at you. Instead of getting in there, we just go back a bit and take a deep breath and just slowly let it out. Your child is still getting at you. Your child is still talking at you. But right now you have gone into yourself instead of into your child. So we're only talking about a few seconds. And of course, your child will be talking at the same time. But the main thing is that once you start actually using this tool, over time, your child might start mirroring your calmness, start mirroring your breathing. So, just allow yourself to have those few seconds to breathe and check in with yourself and think before you do it, even though your child is keep getting at you. If you feel you have to do something, you can actually give yourself some love. They won't know what you're doing. Draw a heart here. While you're breathing, just draw a nice little heart. So you have something to do with your hands, and then you can make a decision on what you're gonna say and not gonna say. So the main thing here is the first step to become the parent you want to be is to control your emotions so they don't hijack the outcome. So you can be also in control of your actions and words and the way you parent. So the next bit I'm going to talk to you about is that in order to become the parent you want to be, we need to know what we're aiming for. Since so often we parent from the wrong set of short-term goals, which is a quick fix where we aim for peace and quiet and happy kids right now. So we might give in, or we might give up, or we might bend our own rules in order to avoid battles that comes later on, or in order to create peace that, we don't want more stress in our home. But this kind of short-term goal doesn't make us the parent we want, because we know deep down that we should have kept to our rules. We should have said no instead of yes, because we want just peace and quiet. So I would like to start with the end in mind, your long-term goals and another kind of short-term goal. So a little activity to you to think about. I would like you to think 5, 10, or 15 years ahead. So if your child is 5 years old right now, think 15 years ahead. If your child is 10 years old, think 10 or 15 years ahead. Basically, think yourself to a time when your child is 20, 25, or 30 years old. What kind of man or woman do you want to raise? What do you hope your kids will develop into? I would like to ask you, what kind of skills or qualities or emotions do you hope that your child will possess or have developed at this time? Basically, what kind of adults do you hope they will turn into be? So what qualities there, so if I'm thinking of my own, it would be respectful. It will be a huge thing for me is its independency, its kindness, its resourceful, and also confidence. So in the chat box below, I would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe write it down on your piece of paper. What's your long-term goal? What kind of man and woman would you like to raise? What qualities do you hope that your child will possess when they're 25 or 30 years time? So be free to put in the chat box, what kind of men and women do you hope to raise? As I said, mine has been a strong about independency. I do not want them to lie on my couch when they're 25 or 30 years old. I want them to be able to manage themselves and get on with life. I would love her to wash up sometimes without me nagging, absolutely. Besides what you already mentioned, also open-minded, patient and kind, respectful, responsible. So these are really strong qualities for our kids to have. Confidence, honest, respectful. So I hope for those of you who have shared it with me, thank you very much. Would you please write them down? These qualities, your long-term goal of what man or what woman do you hope to raise? How do you hope them, how do you want them to be, feel, or experience life? It could also be, you want them to be comfy, yeah, somebody said confidence, but resourceful. So just write these down. And last time I was working with a parent the other day, and we were doing these activities about their long-term goal. And she said, oh my God, I'm actually raising somebody else's husband and wife. And I want them to be able to function in that relationship. We have somebody else, honesty and respect is something we struggle with when going between households. So yeah, so when you're going through two different households, that can sometimes be quite a struggle. So we will come into now, how can we actually reach our long-term goal? This is quite a difficult thought because it makes us realize that what we really don't want, just put that on there, what this one we really don't want is for our children to pick up those negative qualities that we carry. It makes us feel quite guilty actually and worried that they will pick up those bad qualities. Thank you for sharing that, Jan. That's a big thing to share, but obviously I don't want you to feel guilty right now. I want you to feel quite proud. So, but you are right, they do copy us from a very early age. And if we start screaming at them or yelling at them, I'm not saying you are, but I have 3 kids, I've definitely done it myself, even though I see myself as an okay parent, then they're more likely to pick up those and carry them with them. So it is important that we look at our parenting style and how we parent our children. So Laura, communication is everything with your child understanding and supporting my children's, okay, I need to press on it when it's a long one. And supporting my child into independence, respectful, and to have confidence in life despite they have autism and other complex needs. Yeah, absolutely. So you're so right, Laura. When we have a child with special needs, then, and I have 2 myself, then it is something we can still have goals and aims and long-term hopes for them, but we do need to work hard for it, but also believe that and trust that they have the ability to become that person or develop these qualities. So this nicely takes me into the next bit of how can we actually reach this long-term goal, because I don't want it to be like Sian just said, oh God, now I feel really guilty, because actually I think the main thing there, to just back up what Sian said, is that suddenly our job becomes quite important because we can help them to possess these qualities if we think about it. So it is an important job we have, and that's why it's so great that you're here, which means you're already a good enough parent. So anyway, have you written down your long-term goal? What kind of man or woman do you want your child to be? What kind of qualities, feelings, and emotions do you hope them to develop or possess? Then that will be your long-term goal. This will be your compass. This will be your parenting guide of how you raise and parent your children from now on. So before you say or do anything, just grab the 1, 2, 3 awareness breath and stop and breathe and think, what I'm about to say and do right now, does that match my long-term goal? Will that lead me one step further, closer to my long-term goal? So an example is, if I do too much for my children around the house, I make their room, I wash their clothes, I pack their PE kit, I cook for them, I clean for them, I hang up their coat for them. How does that match my long-term goal of independency? And if I start yelling and screaming at my children because we sometimes do that, how does that match my long-term goal of raising confident children? Or role model good behavior and kindness, or how we want them to be. But also, if we give into our own rules or bend them a little bit in the here and now, in our short-term goal of peace and quiet, happy kids in the here and now, how does that match our long-term goal of raising respectful, sociable children? And Laura just put in that boundaries is really especially important. And we will come into that now, because these when we stop and breathe and think how it's going to match our long-term goal, these will be our new kind of short-term goal, our parenting tools that will help us to develop our parenting toolbox. So I'm just going to share another little tool with you. There you go. Oh, that's not the one. There you go. So I'm just going to share another little tool with you of how can we reach this long-term goal of ours by developing some short-term goals. So these parenting tools we need to develop that Laura just mentioned, like boundaries and kindness, they'll become our short-term goal that determine what kind of parent we are in the here and now. It is when everything we do in the present moment as a parent is a planned process that would lead us to your bigger picture, your long-term goals. And these short-term goals, these new parenting tools we're quickly going to look at now, they will help you to develop your parenting toolbox that will help you to become the parent you want to be, so you can feel proud of yourself instead of guilt, but also so you have some goals to reach towards your long-term. So what I would like to do now is quickly to look at what do you need to do more of right now? What do you need to maybe to develop or keep doing that you're doing already in order to meet your long-term goals? So what is your short-term goal right now? So the first thing we can put in our parenting toolbox is connect before correct. Often our lives, as we said in the beginning, is lived so quickly, and we have so much to do that we feel that we might be around our kids a lot, but we're doing all these chores and activities. But when we think about it, how much time are we 100% just with our child, when we give them our 100% devoted attention? So something you can put in your parenting toolbox that will help you to become the parent you want to be is to set time aside every day where you spend quality time with your child, where you're focused, where you're present, where nothing else matters. It's almost like you create a mindful bubble around you and your child at one certain part of the day. And I'm not talking about much time. I'm talking about maybe 10 minutes a day where you zone into what's important, your child, and you zone out from what is not important right now. And if you are to create these 10 minutes of bubble time with each of your children every day, you're together. I understand that if you're in a separated family, you can't do that every day, but when you are together, then it's a huge confidence booster for our child to know that they're worth our time. So it really matches our long-term goal of confidence, kindness, and how to be sociable. So you can put that in your parenting toolbox. Maybe we need to put in our toolbox that we need to choose our battle. We don't have to attend to every negative behavior that our child is exhibiting. We can actually choose to ignore that one. But remember, as I said in the beginning, I won't go into depth, ignore the behavior. And as soon as the behavior diminishes and stop, then you connect. You can re-engage with your child. You connect with the child. And this way you're strengthening it, sending a strong signal that they have a choice of how they behave. And if they choose to behave the negative way, they get less attention. If they choose to behave the positive way, they get your full attention. So you can also use something called catch them being good. It's when everything you see that you like, you get in there straight away and you acknowledge that you appreciate that with a hug, with a smile, with your words, or with your presence. And again, that really match your long-term goal of, good behaviors in general and sociable and respectfulness. So put that in your parenting toolbox of how the parent you want to be. Ignore negative behavior and give lots of attention to the positive. And also this really creates a positive home where you get the balance right. Help them problem solve. So if you want your kids to be resourceful, be independent, then we need to stop maybe problem solving for our kids all the time. So when they come to us with their issues or with their problems or anything, I know we know the best and I know we want to help them, but try to step back, take a deep breath and just listen what they're saying and guide them towards the solution instead of telling them. Give them the confidence knowing that they can actually find a solution within themselves. So one day out in society, in 10, 15 years time, when you're not there, maybe you're at home and they're in university, they don't rely on other people to fix things for them because you have taught them to problem solve for themselves. So teach them to problem solve by listening to them. Listening to understand. We not listen to talk. We don't have to have the right answer for everything, and we don't need to talk all the time. We don't need to be loud to be heard or to be respected. Sometimes listening is the right thing. So when your child is talking, even though he's angry or he's frustrated, try just to take a deep breath and just listen to what you hear. You don't have to say anything. If you want to, you can use a very powerful tool called I listen, I understand, I accept. I can hear you really angry right now, and I understand that you're really angry because you have to get off your screen, and that's okay. We can be angry sometimes. Still doesn't change, they have to get off the screen. As Laura said, we need to put our boundaries down, but that doesn't mean we don't have to listen to them. Listen, even though you don't agree or accept what they're saying, agree with what they're saying. So listening, put that in your toolbox. It's a really powerful tool to create cooperation and teamwork in your home. Curious instead of furious. I think Laura put that in as well. Try to think about, why is my child behaving the way they're behaving? Get down to their level, because all behavior is a form of communication. So before you say and do anything, check in with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that my child is trying to tell me? What are they trying to communicate? Why is he or she behaving the way they're behaving? Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're tired, maybe they're frustrated, maybe they're sad, maybe they didn't understand your request. Once you start becoming curious instead of furious, we are more likely to connect with their emotions and give them what they need instead of just losing it or get angry. So in your parenting toolbox, be curious, not furious. Try to ask, why is my child behaving the way they're behaving? And what do they need right now? Or what do I need right now? Self-care. I could go on forever about that one. If you're okay, your family is okay. So even though we're in lockdown, make sure you get a little bit of me time every day. If you have a partner around, ask them to look after the kids so you can have a bath or read a book. If your kids are around, maybe talk to them about when it's time to just be with yourself, where there's no demand, no request, where you can just be on your own a little bit. It's really important to put your own oxygen mask on so you're fit and energetic to help your children. If we're not okay, we can't help our children. We can't become the parent we want to be. But also parent as a team. Even though you're in a separated family, it's really important to reach, in order to reach our long-term goal, which might be respectful relationship and a happy relationship, that we set the scene at home. So maybe you need to sit down with your partner or your ex and talk about, how do we want to parent so they don't feel the friction in the home. Agree to boundaries and say no with respect. Laura mentioned that one as well, so thank you, Laura. So instead of just throw out our boundaries and rules, sit down with your child beforehand and say, what's okay with you? What's not okay with you? And what's going to happen if they choose to break them? And then the main thing is, don't be afraid to say no if they break these boundaries, or if they don't sit well with you. We can still say it with respect. So I run a webinar called Say No Successfully, and that's a really good one to get into if you feel that boundaries and respect and saying no is a big issue for you. Delegate and trust. It's really important in order to reach our long-term goal, which might be independency and confidence, that we allow our kids to be part of the daily household. So try not to do everything yourself. Allow your kids to do responsibilities and chores as well. If you find chores has become a negative word, you can use something like agreements. You can sit down and make some agreements about how does this household function and what do we each need to do in order to make it work. And I know it's easier to do it ourselves, but it doesn't match our long-term goal of raising independent, respectful, and kind children. Role model what you want to see more of. I think one of you said that as well. I think it was Sian who said, oh my God, my job is so important. If I want my kids to be kind, respectful, resourceful, independent, I need to be that too. I need to show my kids what it is that I want to see in them. So in a way that makes our job really easy because we just need to behave and do the right thing most of the time, but also really difficult because our kids copy everything we say and do. So for now, I just want you to think about, first of all, what's your long-term goal? Secondly, what are my short-term goals to get there? What do I need to put in my parenting toolbox? Or what do I need to keep doing that you might be doing already? Or what do I need to develop in order to get there? But more important, what do I need to do less of, change, or dump altogether? Perfectionism and control doesn't match our short-term goal. We don't need that in our toolbox. Screaming and word flow, where we end up going into overflow and criticism, blaming, and feel guilt afterwards. Reacting to everything. Choose your battles and ignore the negative behavior as long as we give the behavior to the child when they're positive again. Doing everything yourself doesn't match our long-term goal. So in order for you to reach your long-term goal and actually remind yourself to be the parent you want to be and parent from your short-term goal, your first step will be to stop and breathe before you say anything. To remind yourself, what do I have in my parenting toolbox that I need to pull out and use? What is the right tool right now for this situation? Do I need time out? Do I need to ignore the behavior? Do I need to just listen? Do I need to stay curious to why is he behaving like this? Or why is she saying the way she's saying it? What's behind it? So stop and breathe will help you to parent from your new parenting toolbox. And things takes time. I know right now there's a lot of things to put in your toolbox and you might think I can't do everything, but don't worry about it. Maybe you want to start with one tools, and you can always reach out for help. There's definitely ways that I can help you. I do lots of one-to-one work with parents. I run lots of other webinars, but also you can read lots of books. But the main thing is that over time, once you're aware of it, you're more likely to parent the way you want to parent from your toolbox. So I'm just gonna sum up. Stop and breathe before you say anything. And parent from your long-term goal by working on your short-term goal, your present parenting behavior and actions. So I'm just going to stop screen sharing now. And I just, if you want to put your sound off, you can, or if you have any questions, I would love for you to hear, what did you feel that you needed to add in your parenting toolbox that you might not have right now in order to reach your long-term goals? Did you suddenly think, wow, I actually need to develop this tool, add it in my toolbox, and that will help me to become the parent I want to be? So you can either put in the chat box or you can ask a question. Or Linda, if you saw any questions coming in, please free to give them to me. Or right now, you can also just unmute yourself. I'm actually gonna, can you unmute people, Linda? Then I'm not sure I can do that. Or you can unmute yourself. Michelle is saying, love the stop and breathing. And Aruna is also saying, stop breathing before speaking. That's a big one, Aruna. If all you take away today is before I even open my mouth, take a deep breath. You know what? I work a lot for the moment with couples during the lockdown, both together or separately. And it actually works for couples as well, because sometimes we can get annoyed at our partner or friends or other family members, but it helps to just stop and breathe before we open our mouth. I would love to hear if anybody have actually, Linda is saying you can unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, it's easier that way. Did any of you just suddenly think, you know what, that's a tool I need to put in my toolbox, my parenting toolbox, that really will help me to become the parent I want to be. So just do something putting in there. Or Sian is saying, could we put the videos on, please? Yeah, anybody who wants to put the video on, now is a good time to do it. The only reason I don't do it is because I'm recording, so a lot of people actually don't want to be seen. So Sian, thank you for saying that. Michelle is on as well. So if you have any questions or any comments, then now is a good time to just throw them at me.
I'm actually just watching as a practitioner, and you know what I was saying before about, you know, it has made us realise that we don't want to give those negative qualities to our children. But I think certainly the most important thing that I've got from this is teamwork and parenting together. I have to say that's not always easy though, especially when, you know, we talk about parents that are just separating or